talk about something that happens very, very often during the process of post-trauma growth. You've been through hell, right? You've experienced dehumanization, depersonalization, the systematic disassembling of your autonomy and your voice and your personhood. And now you are trying to put the pieces together. You're trying to figure out what is helpful, what is harmful, what is healing, what is wholesome, what is just because it's just there because it was in your past and you don't know if it still belongs there. And then it's natural to interact with triggers. And for this video, I am not specifically talking about triggers that are like light touch versus firm touch. I'll be honest with you, light touch, huge trigger for me. Someone comes along and just like lightly strokes or scrapes or something, I'm gonna jump out of my skin. That's a physiological trigger. Somebody comes up and stands behind me, even my own kids. I'm like, you need to be back here where I can see you. I can't handle having someone standing behind me. I am the person who will always walk into the restaurant, check all the exits, and take just like a subconscious safety assessment of everyone around. And then I will subconsciously, even habitually, find the seat that has the greatest view of everyone, and my back is to a wall. Nobody can sneak up behind me. There's no opportunity for surprise that I can't see coming, and I always can see where the exits are. That is, yes, because of past history and triggers. But those physiological, situational, environmental triggers are really not what I'm talking about for this video. That's a whole different ballgame. What I want to focus on, and 4 helpful strategic questions that can help you process things, are triggers that are more related to messaging. If you've grown up in a faith community, in a cultural community that gave you dehumanizing, depersonalizing messages, and you are in the process of parsing those out and figuring out what can I hold on to, what do I need to get rid of, what is helpful, what is harmful, all of these things, you're going to have situations where you encounter things, whether it's in your church or online or on social media or friends' comments or sermons you hear or someone on the radio or a song. You're going to be running into things that make you go, ooh, I'm not sure. And in the beginning, a lot of that is knee-jerk. And it's normal to have a lot of that be knee-jerk. And when we are early in those stages and we're functioning maybe in a fight trauma response, if we're stuck in that, we are so likely to just be like, stop it, that's triggering. Oh my goodness, throw that out. And that's a pretty normal stage. There's no judgment if that's the stage you're in. It's not going to be healthy if you stay in that stage, but there's no judgment if that's the stage that you're in. What you want to do is move beyond being stuck in that fight response to expanding from the black and white thinking that may have been originally part of your teaching or your upbringing or your culture or your theological beliefs, to be able to hold things in tension with each other. Yes, that could be triggering. No, it wasn't meant for me. Yes, I feel sketchy about this right now. But do I need to consider it further? Instead of a no, but kind of response, learning to shift to a yes and kind of response. We see a lot of this when we look at the Bible, and we see in the Old Testament there is an awful lot of very black and white stuff. And not all of it is prescriptive where God is saying, you have to do this. A lot of times it's descriptive, saying this stuff happened, historically descriptive. So sorry, I'm getting myself off of into another thing. Maybe I should do another video about that at some point. But when we move into the New Testament with Jesus, he's not talking so much to the trauma kids of Israel who just came out of 400 years of slave labor and they needed to have everything parsed out for them exactly. Like, this is exactly what you do. As Jesus is interacting in the New Testament, we see that he's making the assumption of emotional and moral maturity on the part of the people that he's talking to. He tells stories. And when the disciples are like, but what does it mean? He's like, well, if I told you everything and you can't figure it out, then you're not ready to understand. So he's assuming, Jesus in the New Testament, his way of approaching is assuming a different level of emotional wholeness and emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, moral maturity on the part of those who are paying attention to what he has to say. Now, what does this have to do with triggers? Well, in that early season, when you're just in fight mode and anything that tripwires you related to the stuff you are healing from, you want to begin learning to ask questions. Instead of just coming back with statements, instead of going into courtroom mode, you want to go into questioning mode. Okay, here are some questions. Number one, when you feel something triggering you and you're not exactly sure why, ask, am I reacting in a triggered way to this because the message itself is truly harmful? Is the content of what I am responding to with this feeling, is my feeling caused by the fact that this is a toxic, evil message, even if it's cloaked in spiritualized terms or culturally acceptable terms? And if the answer to that is yes, then maybe you don't need to go further. You just need to say, I am going to move beyond this. I'm not going to give this any more of my attention. I may or may not need to go and fight it right now. That may or may not be a good use of my energy, but I am going to move beyond focusing on this because, honestly, the core intent of the message is one of power, control, toxic, abuse, ownership, exploitation, licentiousness, whatever it is. But if the answer is, I don't know, or I'm not sure if the core intent of this message is harmful, then, oh, this could be a flow chart. You're right, Lynn. I should make this a flow chart. But if I'm not sure about that being a firm yes or no answer, then the second question would be, am I reacting to this because my historical experience renders me sensitive to the subject in a way that others may not be? Now, I don't say sensitive in the context of, oh, you're just so oversensitive. I mean, are you aware of nuances that others might breeze right past precisely because you have a historical personal experience with this type of message? So if you can identify that the core intent of the message is not necessarily automatically a harmful one, then the question is, am I hyper aware of it because of what I've been through? And then again, you have two possible answers. Yes, I'm hyper aware of it because of what I've been through, or no, it's still just bad. It's not because of what I've been through, it's because of the message itself. But if the answer is yes, I'm hyper aware of it because of what I've been through, then your next question, I'm now visualizing this as a flow chart. Thank you. I had it as a stack of questions, but thanks to Lynn, I'm thinking flow chart now. The next question is, am I if I am, yes, hyper aware of the potential for harm in this message because of my own historical experience, then am I understanding the actual core intent of the message accurately? So this is a personal reflection question. Am I understanding it the way it was meant? And there could be a lot of potential answers for this. The original person who made the statement or posted something or preached something may actually not have meant it the way you took it, and it could be cleared up, even though you're hyper aware of it. It could be cleared up simply by asking some questions and coming to a better understanding of how they intended it. That means you have to learn to withhold judgment and conclusion. Hold back on your conclusions until you've discovered how they intended it. And if they intended it well, in a helpful, healing, and wholesome way, then you're like, oh, okay, I can let go of my triggered response now, because now I understand the heart of the person who is speaking. Now I understand where they were coming from. This takes us out of ourselves and into a healthy, communicative dialogue where we are seeking to understand the other person's good or bad intent. What was their motivation? If we understand that their motivation actually wasn't healthy, and so I'm clear now on the actual intent of the message, but it was not a good intent. I've clarified the intent. Now I am solidly aware that the intent was not a healthy intent. So now I'm aware that I need to take the next step, because I'm at peace that I wasn't just assuming harmful intent based on my own triggers. Now I recognize that this takes, thank you, Dr. Sedlacek, I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're watching. I'm aware that this takes a level of post-trauma growth that you're not going to have immediately after leaving an abusive situation. But I want to challenge you to see this, even if you're fresh on this journey, to see this as the goal and to gradually put this mindset into practice. Now, number four, here's number four. Let's review. Number one, am I reacting to this because the message itself is clearly harmful? Two, am I reacting to this because my historical experience lends me to a hyper-awareness that I may be picking up on things that others might not notice? Three, and in that case, hyper-awareness is a good thing, good intuition. Three, am I understanding the actual intent of the message, or am I assuming harmful intent based on my own triggers? So I want to clarify what the first original intent was so that I understand the heart of the other person. And here's number four. Can I now engage in a discussion with the other person or persons that will, A, resolve my sense of trigger due to giving them a chance to make a better explanation and clarify their intent. Now I understand the heart of where they were coming from. I can release my trigger. We understand each other better. Mutual growth has happened all around. Or two, okay, that's A. B, can I engage in a discussion that will resolve my sense of trigger due to my own growth response? Now that I understand where you're coming from, now I can grow, and I'm less quick on the draw to fight. I'm able to give space for you to express something in a way that may be different than I would express it, but because I understand your heart and your core intention, I'm able to give you that space to be an authentic individual according to your gifts and your personality and your way of expressing things, and recognize that we can coexist in mutual support of each other without sharing clone identities. You don't have to be exactly like me. I don't have to be exactly like you. And we can grow out of this. And C, can I engage in a discussion that will potentially confirm my sense of trigger, because now I realize that the message was indeed intended to convey a concept that causes real harm rather than simply being my perception of causing harm. And that means my sense of trigger is now resolved because I recognize it was harmful the way it was communicated. It was also harmful the way it was intended. And now I am going to no longer let it take space in my brain and my energy, because I'm not going to choose to interact or spend time and energy on things that are actually intended and communicated from a harmful place. So next time you find something making you have that sense of raw rising up, these are a list of questions you can ask yourself. You can take micro baby steps from whatever point you are in to learn and practice parsing things out, understanding nuances, holding opposing feelings or emotions in tension with each other to become a both and in a healthy mutuality, instead of trying to make everything either good or bad, black or white. There are healthy shades of gray in our growth and our understanding and our emotional maturity after healing from trauma. So one of the things that you can do after you watch this video is take away the intent to practice this method of stop, ask, how can I find a both and or a yes and then making sure I have sought to understand the core intention and the heart of the other person. And if that is revealed to be harmful and evil, then I am also going to respect myself and them by no longer engaging with it. And if it is revealed to be helpful and caring and good, and I just misunderstood it, then I'm going to take that as an opportunity for me to grow so that I can understand other people and myself more fully. These kind of things bring us out of that frozen, stuck trauma response mode into more and more healthy, whole, safe interactions with other people. People we love, people we care about, people we may never want to see again. All of them. Drop a thought, share it, let me know where you're watching from, what you think, how this hits you, and you know what? I think I'm gonna have to go make that flowchart. All right, have a great weekend.